Welcome to Local SEO Today. I'm Roger Murphy.
And I'm John Bob.
We want to welcome you today to our segment. We want to talk to business owners or entrepreneurs that are thinking about or starting a new business. And today, John, the topic is 10 things to consider when starting your new business.
I think this is a great topic, especially if you've always wanted to run your own company.
Yep. Be your own boss.
Be your own boss, and see if you're cut out to be a successful entrepreneur or not, right? So the first thing that we want to talk about is really figure out why you want to start your business, right? Figure out your why, ultimately.
Yep.
Is it for the money? Is it really for time? Is it your
freedom?
Freedom?
Because you don't have a boss to report to, so you're your own boss.
Like, there's a lot of things you gotta uncover about yourself.
Yes.
Right? And why you have left your full-time job to want to be an entrepreneur, or you're doing a side hustle and you're wanting to see if this is gonna work out or not.
Exactly.
Right? So figure out why you're in doing this ultimately. And once you figure that out, then you'll have a better reasoning on why you're in business, right?
Exactly.
And number two is look at your finances. Because ultimately, if you're an entrepreneur, you're probably not gonna earn as much as to start off as much as when you were working a full-time job.
Exactly. I have seen 100 times a factor of 10 all through the years. Business owners or new entrepreneurs, they're undercapitalized. And what that is John, and to viewers, not having access to funds to get the business started properly. And I'm not talking about having a fortune sitting at your disposal from the bank on a credit line, but look at it's going to take longer than expected to get the thing up and running. You've got to have an idea and a particular amount of funds you can use and access while you're ramping up your business.
Yeah, and I mean, as an entrepreneur myself, I started, there were two ways. You can either buy a business, fund it through loans and grants and figure out if you can borrow money, or you start from ground up, but you bootstrap, right? And you figure out where you should invest money and spend money and where you shouldn't, and you'll realize that really quickly.
Exactly.
Right? But really figure out why you're doing it, and then how are you going to fund this venture, because this first 6 months or a year or a couple years, you're probably not going to pay yourself, right? And be prepared for that. So depending on your life situation as well, are you equipped to handle the
demands,
right? If you have a family, is it the right time to put your family at risk?
So if you are already employed somewhere, this is where, in terms of ask yourself that question: can I afford to do this? And if you can't because of cash flow, really consider, today, John, we use it all the time, it's referred to as the side hustle. There's lots of time between 5 in the afternoon and midnight every day where you can do something on the side to get it going and get it growing. So don't go cold turkey and cut off your entire source of regular income to try and start this new business. You got to balance that out and be smart.
Yeah, and this is a decision you have to make, right, as an entrepreneur, right?
One thing we should talk about too is not getting ahead of ourselves, but the business that you're getting into, is there a demand for it? Research the market, and maybe you're working for somebody already and you're saying, I could do this better. I see holes in the system of what they're doing, or they're not providing as good a service. I think I could do this better, whatever that is. But research it to make sure you've got a demand in this community.
Yeah, and that means either working for someone that's actually offering that product or service, understanding how it's run, understanding their customers, or you doing that at a lower price point so that you can gain market traction and figure out if there's actual demand for that product or service you're offering, right? And make sure there's a margin. I mean, at the beginning, you're probably just acquiring customers, so don't expect to make a lot of money. Make sure you're covering your expenses.
Yes, that's it. So research the market, make sure there's a need there and a demand for it. What is going to be your competitive advantage? And think about that. To your point, John, it can't just be cheaper. You've got to provide more, whatever that is. It's got to be more service, faster, better quality, products or whatever you're using. You've got to find something that goes above and beyond your competition.
And what's your unique selling proposition, right? What makes you different than the other guy down the street or the other guy in your city or neighbor?
Exactly, because if you're exactly the same, what's the point?
Exactly.
There is no point.
So they have much more experience than you.
That's it.
They've been doing it much longer. They know they have better processes, systems. They probably have better vendors as well for pricing, right?
Yeah.
So you starting off, you got to figure out what's going to make you different.
Exactly.
Is it the service? Is it something that stands up, sets you apart?
That's it. Something else that should be mentioned: if you're considering getting into a business, have a system, learn a system, and that might be maybe you're already working in an industry that you want to move it on your own. But banks love systems. When you go to the bank and you're saying, I'm going to open up my own and I need a credit line or whatever it is, they're going to say, show me your business plan. They love business plans that show experience, show there's cash flow, here's what I anticipate, here my costs are going to be, here's my marketing, here's profit margins, whatever it is. If you learn that somewhere else, that's the best education you'll ever get.
And do your due diligence, right? So figure out what they want and do it,
yes.
Right? A lot of business owners or entrepreneurs, they don't understand what it takes to be an entrepreneur,
yep.
Right? They don't understand business plans and how much due diligence you need to do the market research, figure out what the pricing is, figure out what the market actually entails, the population, the growth, the trends, what your competitors are actually doing, what's going to set you apart, how you're going to be different, location-wise, the service offerings. There's so much involved as a business owner.
Yep. So many things to consider. One thing also, John, just in terms of the finances, I think you mentioned it already, but think about this. If you are getting, you've got the business plan, you've given it to the bank, they've approved you for some sort of credit, the credit line you end up with is not your friend. It's not free money. It is not there to be spent frivolously. And I have watched, and I've seen this over the years, examples of young business entrepreneurs that go out, once they've got the credit line, they go get, first thing, John, a $50,000 truck. Brand new truck, huge debt that they're saddled with for 7 years. That's not the smart move when you have no revenue coming in.
Exactly.
Be very smart. You use that credit line very, very, very cautiously.
And I think the biggest thing people don't spend enough of at the beginning is to market and advertise and get your name out there, right? Because you don't have a client base,
right?
Especially if you're brand new. If you're buying a book of business and you're an established business, it's a little bit different because you're loaning, you're buying a business, right?
You're buying a system that has cash flow that hopefully, with your money and with any money you've gotten from the bank as credit or whatever, can pay for itself and you can pay down that debt.
Yeah, so make sure you are knowledgeable, be educated, figure out what you want to do with the money that you borrowed from the bank, right? And be smart with the money.
Exactly. And know, to your point again, know that you're not going to be putting money in your pocket for months. You're going to be working twice as hard for half the money, 7 days a week, but this is what entrepreneurship is all about. And it gets better over time and it's exciting in the early days, but just know that it is not a 9-to-5 job. John, when you started this company, your company, how many hours were you putting in? A day?
Easily 16 hours.
A day.
7 days a week.
Yep.
From learning to understanding how to be an entrepreneur.
And acquiring customers.
Exactly.
And taking care of customers. So entrepreneurship is, and collecting. Entrepreneurship is fantastic, and it's a needed service in society. Business people, consumers need entrepreneurs to provide goods and services.
So first, when you're looking at building a small business, you have to figure out if you want to be a solopreneur. Do you want to have a partnership,
right?
Or do you want to incorporate, right?
Yep.
So when I first started, I was actually just with a business number, so a solopreneur, right? So I didn't know what my revenues were going to be like. I didn't know if this was going to be it or not, right? But the whole intention is to incorporate, right? So that you're protected over the years, right? But figure out what your entity needs to be, especially if you're just starting the journey.
Exactly. And it should be mentioned that partnerships, if you check even the most, marketing 101 in college or university, partnerships do not last. They will not last forever. But it's the reason people partner is because they don't have the capital to do it all themselves. So to have 100% of ownership of something that's not succeeding versus 51% or 49% of something that is a success, that's why you need partnerships. But know that you've got to have it structured properly, because there will be a day where you'll be exiting from each other.
Or incorporating, because at the end of the day, you want to protect your personal assets.
Good point.
To your business assets, right? In case you never know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
So figure out what kind of entity you need to set up your small business.
Yeah. So lots to consider. We're just touching on a few of the high points, but if hopefully we've given you something just to consider, something to sit back and just really think about the why you're getting into it, the efforts that are going to be required, the homework. It's like going back to school. And I should mention, John, even though you're your own boss, you don't have to report to anyone. In fact, you still will report to somebody. It's either going to be Revenue Canada or your banker. So trust me, you'll always have a boss. There's always be somebody, talking.
And have fun, right? This is an entire journey about your life, right? And this is going to be a commitment that you're going to put yourself through, either through learning or trial and error, learning from others, learning from the mistakes you're going to make. And yes, it's constant learning. So stay open to continually learn, because once you stop learning, that's when you probably aren't going to be successful, right?
Yeah. Well, John, thank you for today, and I hope you enjoyed this segment of things to consider when starting a new business.
Thank you.
Have a good day.